We turn now to a second phase of our conference, which will look at the religious values that are embodied in buildings and their future. Our first presenters are Kyle Warren and Benjamin Peterson. Kyle Warren is a PhD candidate in theological and philosophical studies of religion at Drew University and teaches topics related to design justice at the Boston Architectural College. Benjamin Peterson is the co-director of the Civic Design Lab at the Boston Society for Architecture. Kyle and Ben are also the co-founders of Fallow, a design research collaborative based in Boston, and their presentation is about design justice moving beyond church repair.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you to all the organizers and the editors for your help with this paper. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the work that Ben and I do, and then how it relates to our article. So we acknowledge the complexity of decision-making that concerns the fate of religious properties and infrastructures. We would like to engage these questions from our distinct disciplinary perspectives that meet at the intersection of social justice and community-based design. Church properties present opportunities rather than limitations for restoring gathering spaces for multiple publics. Reframing conversations about building vacancy and disrepair in terms of justice-seeking processes can help communities view architectural renovation and repair as opportunities to engage in both material and social transformations. This slide represents our work that we've done in the past at Fallow, which is a multidisciplinary research collaboration. We focus on uncovering how decisions about space are made and how those decisions implicitly or explicitly carry values and ideals into the world. Methods that interrogate social historical contexts and speak to the hidden processes of architecture and its multiple footprints inform our work. One of the previous processes we call discursive mapping that was shown in the previous slide showed some of our work that we've done with ACLU concerning encampment sweeps in Boston. We've applied that method to the cathedral that you see here. This is the Baltimore Cathedral. It's also called the Basilica of the Assumption. It is recognized as the first church built in America after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Many of the articles written at the time of the cathedral's renovation and bicentennial celebration just a few years ago were absent of any mention of America's racist histories in constructing and structuring space or Christianity's participation and identity formation in relation to racialized property ownership. The narratives surrounding the church's history should be examined for narratives and sacred authorities that allow for the anti-Black ideals and practices to continue to persist in unsuspecting places, particularly those sites identified as sacred and those constructed with benevolence. This image and the following image, each created by Henry Latrobe, the architect of the Basilica and the US Capitol, capture both an idealized image of architecture, as well as the erased histories contingent in their making, seen here. The symbolism of the Baltimore Basilica relied on epistemologies formed through slavery and colonialism. Slavery's archival footprint documents the accounting of goods and materials that placed Black humans, horses, cattle, and household items all in the same bill of purchase. Slavery's archival footprints includes not only the footprints of the buildings and their sites, but also the bodies, energies, tools, and materials used in the site clearance and erection of these buildings.
As we learn from Baltimore, we start to understand the ways in which buildings represent and materialize ideologies and theologies of individuals who were involved in making. Design justice principles or frameworks constructed by a wide community of designers and thinkers with various affiliations think iteratively about what this means and what this looks like in a built environment, and how architecture might engage collective processes of seeking justice. That might mean making the processes of architecture less exclusionary, demystifying access to decision-making, here as simply as translating the artifacts of architecture into multiple accessible languages. While not a faith-based building or infrastructure, the work that we've been involved in Malden is a transformation of a former courthouse into a center for art and culture. helps us to remember that beyond symbolic or aesthetic registers, decisions about space making acknowledge how spatial organization has historically choreographed and codified inequitable social hierarchies. Here is an image of the courthouse holding cells. Throughout a process of planning, community members have highlighted the importance of acknowledging this history, recognizing the concerns that this building holds as a spatial infrastructure that criminalizes marginalized populations in disproportionate amounts. Building renovations also help us think through architects' role in proposing new ways of constructing justice-oriented space. This is a proposed entry pavilion that engages directly with architecture's most problematic space. As we move through this work, we'll be thinking more about how these principles apply in the direct context of faith-based infrastructures with Mission Grammar School and Mission Hill, thinking about how to approach and adapt some of the challenges faced by many of the others, specifically with kids here. Thank you.